We met about 20 years ago. He was in a couple of my A-level classes with me. I was very aware of him, always following me around college. I wasn't aware back then what stalking was. When you're 16 to 18, you don't really understand. You just think, oh, it's some strange bloke with a crush on me. And I tried to ignore him, and he did. He followed me quite a lot. But as soon as we left college, I thought that was it. And then, unfortunately, 10 years later, he got in touch with me again, and that's really when the stalking started.
So what happened then? What sort of things was he doing?
It started, first of all, where I work. They were commenting that someone had kept coming in, asking information about me, wanting my personal details. And around that time, I then started to receive anonymous emails, flowers and cards sent to my place of work. And so the only way I could track who this was to look at the CCTV footage at work. And once I looked at it, on the dates that he'd come in to work asking about me, I could see it was him, and I wasn't surprised to see that that was him.
Were you anxious? Were you frightened? Or were you slightly bewildered?
I was anxious quite early on, and I think that's because of what I'd experienced at college, him being very strange, always sort of, you know, hiding behind a bush and waiting for me and following me. So he made me feel nervous in college. And then I was concerned that, you know, there's a 10-year gap and here he is back in my life again. And it continued in lots of sightings of him round by where I work. My parents' home, they live in a very quiet cul-de-sac, and he'd be jogging up there in this quiet cul-de-sac on Christmas Day and, you know, family days where I would be round there. And yes, there was always just, he seemed to be, wherever I went, he was there. It was a very good outcome yesterday. That has been a long time coming, this particular breach of the restraining order, the issue of him accessing the civil courts in order to bring vexatious complaints against me. As you know, we've spoken in the past, I've had that breach twice before against me, and the CPS dropped the prosecution for that breach back in 2011, and that left me very vulnerable. I felt very open for Fogel to do that again, and obviously he did. But I'm obviously very pleased that the prosecution went ahead and they were successful.
Psychologically, what difference does it make to you knowing that he is behind bars again?
Well, it's how I felt. It gives me respite. You know, I can't deny that when he's out of prison, obviously I have that constant awareness and fear and looking over my shoulder, although I deal with that a lot better now. I made a decision, and I think you get to a point as a victim that you want to be a survivor, and in order to survive this crime, you almost have to put your stalker in a box and get on with your life regardless. And that's really what I've been trying to do.
Tell our audience about the impact on you and your family of this campaign of stalking, which has gone on for over a decade. And as I mentioned in the introduction, you know, searching your name on the internet, turning up at work, turning up at home, breaking into your car, pretending to be a prospective parent at your child's nursery. I mean,
what you've just said is actually one of the claims that he made against me, because that wasn't proved in the court of law. However, that information was given to me by a police officer, so that's the only way I knew that he had been to my daughter's nursery. Otherwise I wouldn't have known that. It had, and it still does to some degree, have a huge impact on my life, you know, on our lives, our family's life. Every decision that we make, we have to consider this man often in what we do. Although I'm trying to do that less and less. As I said, I want to get on with my life and live my life. So, but it had a huge psychological impact. I've said it time and time again, stalking is a psychological crime. It's a crime of great terror, and it's not often recognised. It hadn't been for many years. You know, if you don't have bruises and there isn't physical violence, people aren't understanding the huge emotional impact that stalking has on a victim's life.